Hello and welcome to Slow Sip English, the podcast for learners who want to improve their English while listening to real, relaxed, everyday conversations. I'm your host, Sophie.
And I'm Tom. Really happy to be here with you today.
Today's topic is something that affects all of us: evening routines. What happens after the workday ends? How do we switch off, unwind, and get ready for a good night's sleep? It's one of those topics that sounds very ordinary, but once you start talking about it, there is so much to say, and quite a lot of useful English vocabulary along the way.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, my evenings are not exactly what you'd call a well-optimized routine, but they are very comfortable. And comfortable counts, right?
Comfortable absolutely counts. Okay, so Tom, the workday is over. You close your laptop. What's the very first thing that happens in your evening?
Honestly, I stand in the kitchen for about 2 minutes staring into space, deciding whether I have the energy to actually cook something. And the answer is almost always no.
So what happens then?
Takeout or pasta. I have maybe 4 things I can make reliably: pasta with sauce, eggs on toast, stir fry, and soup from a tin. I rotate through them based on how tired I am. Stir fry when I have energy, and at the very bottom, soup from a tin, which requires only the ability to open a tin and heat it up.
That is a very honest and very relatable system. I actually love cooking in the evening. For me, chopping vegetables and following a recipe is one of the best ways to unwind. There's something really mindful about it. You're focused on the task, your hands are busy, and your brain gets a rest from work thoughts.
I can see that actually. I think my version of that is washing up. I don't mind doing the washing up because it's just mindless, you know? You're standing there with warm water and a sponge. It's oddly peaceful.
That's the same principle. Repetitive, low-effort tasks can really help your brain decompress. Okay, so food sorted. What do you do after you eat?
Sofa, immediately. My main goal after eating is to do as little as possible. I collapse on the sofa, I find something to watch, and I basically don't move for 2 or 3 hours. I am a completely dedicated binge watcher. I have no shame about it.
What are you watching at the moment?
Okay, so I just started this crime thriller. I won't say the name because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it is absolutely gripping. I watched 4 episodes on Saturday night and had to turn off the TV at 1 in the morning because I would genuinely have just kept going until the sun came up. Every episode ends on a cliffhanger. You need to know what happens next.
Tom, sleep quality. Staying up till 1 in the morning is not great.
I know, and I felt it the next morning, believe me. I was absolutely dead to the world for the first hour. But the plot twist in episode 5? Okay, I'm saying nothing.
Okay, I do understand the pull of a good show, but I try hard to limit my screen time in the evenings, especially in the last hour before bed. I find it much easier to actually switch off and fall asleep if I've had some time away from screens first.
Is that actually a real thing, like scientifically?
It is, yes. Screens emit blue light, which interferes with your body's production of melatonin, the hormone that makes you feel sleepy. So if you're staring at a bright screen right before bed, your brain thinks it's still daytime, which makes it harder to fall asleep and reduces the quality of your sleep.
That's genuinely interesting and slightly concerning given my recent Saturday night. So what do you do instead of screens?
I read. That's my main wind-down activity. I try to read for at least 30 minutes before bed, an actual book, not a screen. My brain shifts into a slower, quieter mode. I stop thinking about the day, and by the time I put the book down, I'm genuinely ready to sleep.
What kind of things do you read?
I alternate between fiction and non-fiction. At the moment, I'm reading a collection of essays about the natural world. Very calming, very beautiful writing. Before that, a Spanish novel in translation. I love translated fiction.
That sounds really nice, actually. I used to read more. The problem is that once I'm on the sofa with the TV on, picking up a book feels like too much effort, which is ridiculous when I say it out loud because it's literally less effort than watching television. But somehow my brain doesn't agree.
There's a phrase for that, the path of least resistance. We tend to do whatever takes the least effort, especially when we're tired. The trick is putting the book somewhere visible and easy to reach, on your bedside table. Make it the default.
That's a smart tip. What about your phone? I have this terrible habit where I'll be watching something, and during a quiet moment, I just automatically pick up my phone and start scrolling. I don't even know what I'm looking for.
I think a lot of people do that. It's almost an automatic reflex. What I started doing, and this really helped, is putting my phone on charge in a different room in the evening, out of reach, out of mind.
That's a great idea. I've tried it and it does work, I just need to be consistent about it. The first evening, I kept walking to the kitchen for no reason, just to check my phone, and then I'd remember and walk back. That happens several times.
That's very revealing about how dependent we've all become on our phones. It does get easier after a few days. Though the other part of my evening that I think makes a real difference is what I do in the last 20 minutes or so before bed. I use that time to prepare for the next day.
Oh, here we go, the organized Sophie section of the program.
It genuinely makes my mornings so much calmer. I'll pack my bag, choose my outfit for the next day, and write a quick to-do list. Nothing elaborate, just 3 or 4 things. It takes about 10 minutes, but it clears my head.
I do none of that. My preparation for the next day is setting my alarm, and if I remember, charging my phone. That's the whole process. It takes about 12 seconds.
And then what? You just hope for the best?
Pretty much, and honestly, it mostly works out. Mostly. There have been a few mornings where I've arrived at work without my laptop charger, but on balance, I live a very spontaneous and free evening lifestyle, and I'm at peace with that.
I love that. Okay, so I think we'd both agree our styles are very different. I'm structured and Tom is comfortable and spontaneous. But neither approach is wrong. They're just different ways to recharge at the end of a day.
Exactly. And as long as you feel rested, or at least not completely destroyed, then your evening routine is doing its job, even if it involves 4 episodes of a crime thriller and eggs on toast.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift into our vocabulary spotlight. This is the part of the episode where we go back through some of the words and phrases from today's conversation and explain them clearly. There were some really good ones today. I'll start. Number 1, to unwind. This means to relax and recover after a period of work or stress. You unwind by doing things that are enjoyable and low pressure. For example, after a stressful week at work, I like to unwind by cooking a nice meal and listening to music.
Great one. Number 2, to switch off. This is slightly different from unwind. To switch off specifically means to stop thinking about work, responsibilities, or worries. It's about mentally disconnecting. For example, he finds it really hard to switch off from work when he gets home. He's always checking his emails.
Perfect. Number 3, to wind down. This one is specifically about the process of gradually becoming calmer and sleepier as you prepare for bed. It's a transition. You wind down from an active day towards sleep. For example, I always need at least an hour to wind down before I can actually fall asleep.
And notice that unwind, switch off, and wind down all describe similar ideas, but with slightly different meanings. Unwind is general relaxation. Switch off is mental disconnection from work. And wind down is specifically the transition towards sleep. English loves subtle distinctions like that.
Exactly. That's a really useful distinction. Number 4, to binge watch. This means to watch multiple episodes of a TV series one after another in a single sitting, usually for several hours. For example, We binge-watched the whole first season over the weekend, and now we're desperate for more.
A word I know deeply and personally. You can also use binge as a verb on its own. I've been binging that show. Or as a noun, a binge-watching session. Very versatile word.
Number 5, to get lost in something. This means to become so absorbed in an activity that you lose track of time and everything around you. For example, I got completely lost in that novel. I looked up and 2 hours had gone by. Number 6, screen time. This is a very modern term that refers to the amount of time you spend looking at a screen, your phone, computer, TV. For example, I'm trying to cut down my screen time in the evenings. Many phones now actually measure and show you your daily screen time, which can be quite alarming.
Very alarming. I checked mine once and chose not to look at it again. And number 7, a creature of habit. Sophie described herself as a creature of habit. This phrase describes someone who likes routine, who prefers doing things the same way every day, and who feels uncomfortable when their routine is disrupted. For example, my mom is such a creature of habit. She has the same cup of tea at the same time every single morning.
And it's not a negative phrase. It can suggest reliability and consistency as much as inflexibility. Okay, so 7 great phrases today: to unwind, to switch off, to wind down, to binge watch, to get lost in something, screen time, and a creature of habit. Try using 1 or 2 of them this week.
So now it's over to you, our wonderful listeners. We have a few questions to help you reflect on your own evening routines. Take a moment to think about them, answer them in your head, or even try writing your answers down in English as a little practice exercise.
First, are you more of a Sophie or a Tom in the evenings? Do you prefer a structured wind-down routine, or do you like things to be more spontaneous and comfortable?
Second, what is your absolute favorite way to unwind after a long or stressful day? Is this something active, like cooking or walking? Or something passive, like watching TV or reading?
And third, how important is switching off from screens to you in the evening? Is it something you already do, or is it something you'd like to try doing more of?
Take your time with those. There are no right or wrong answers. It's just about getting to know your own habits a little better and using your English to describe them, which is always good practice.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode of Slow Sip English. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. We genuinely love making this podcast, and knowing that you're out there listening really means a lot.
We hope you picked up some useful vocabulary and maybe thought about your own evening a little differently. And remember, the best way to improve your English is to actually use it. So why not try describing your evening routine out loud in English tonight? Just give it a go.
Until next time, take care of yourselves, have a lovely evening, and we'll see you soon.
Bye for now, and maybe put your phone down for the evening. Just a thought.